Remember way back when you first signed up for Facebook? If you're my age, it was probably 15 years ago now, time flies, and you may recall that the site asked for your name, birth date, where you went to school, and your gender, giving you the standard two choices of male or female. But that was before society went completely mad, because they later increased those two old-fashioned choices in 2014 to 58 different options, including gender fluid, gender non-binary, neither, and gender questioning, just to name a few. But 58 different genders still wasn't inclusive enough, and in order to not leave anybody out, they later decided to let users just enter whatever word or made-up word they wanted in a blank box as their gender. That was when the dam burst. 2 years later, in 2016, the hookup app Tinder increased their gender options to 37 different gender identities. And now the state of New York legally recognizes 31 different supposed genders, including gender fluid, meaning sometimes a male and sometimes a female, androgynous, and gender non-conforming, which means neither male nor female, and even more ridiculous sounding options like pangender, two-spirit, and gender gifted. In fact, it's now illegal in the city of New York for an employer or even a landlord to call somebody by the wrong gender if they identify as any of these characters. Refusal to use a transgender employee's preferred name or pronoun or title, like Mr. or Mrs. or Mix or Z or Zir, is unlawful gender-based harassment, according to the New York City Legal Enforcement Guide on Gender Identity. Fines of up to $250,000 may be issued for willfully mispronouncing someone. In 2017, the Democrat governor of California, Jerry Brown, signed a similar bill into law, which makes it a crime for healthcare workers to willfully and repeatedly refuse to call a patient by their preferred name or pronouns. Workers can be fined $1,000 or sent to jail for up to 1 year. Similar laws will likely be put in place for teachers, business owners, and probably everyone if we don't reverse this Marxism soon, which, to be completely honest with you, may be impossible at this point unless or until Republican states secede or form a new union, which, if our country keeps heading down this path, may be inevitable. And sadly, it's not just California. As California goes, so goes the nation. And a gender non-conforming teen in South Carolina sued the DMV after they refused to allow him to take his driver's license photo wearing makeup, accusing them of discrimination, and he won the case, setting the precedent for more craziness to come. The following year, a man in Portland won the right to wear a fox hat in his driver's license photo after he sued for religious discrimination, claiming he was a member of the Seven Drums, a Native American religion whose adherents sometimes wear ceremonial animal totems, and he claimed that his was a fox. In 2017, California began to legally recognize a third gender option on driver's licenses. People can list their sex as the letter X instead of male or female now. Oregon also passed the same law, allowing residents to choose X for their sex. When Andrew Cuomo was the governor of New York, he signed the same type of bill into law for gender non-binary people who can now list X as their gender to identify any of the 58 or however many different supposed genders these people have made up by now. Washington, D.C. began issuing gender-neutral driver's licenses in 2017 as well, and other states are doing the same thing. After the DMV in Vermont revealed that they would be allowing people to do it in 2018, an editor at the Burlington Free Press tweeted out sarcastically, "Awesome! This brings us one step closer to the apocalypse," and was soon fired for hate speech. There is no requirement for an evaluation by a doctor for a supposed transgender person to get their driver's license listing their sex as something other than what they were born. All someone needs to do is check whatever box they feel like. When this gender identity tornado was just getting started, a Canadian YouTuber named Lauren Southern, a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman in her early 20s at the time, decided to see how easy it would be for her to be legally declared a man. At the time in Canada, if you got a doctor's note saying that you were a certain gender, then you could get a driver's license listing whatever it was. Her examination consisted of simply telling the doctor what gender she wanted to be, and without a physical exam or giving her a DNA test, she was given a doctor's note that simply said, "To whom it may concern, This is to certify the above should be identified as male. And then she took the doctor's note to Canada's equivalent of the DMV and then got a new government ID which identified her as a male. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau later changed the law so that nobody would even need a doctor's note, and now anyone can have whatever they want listed on their driver's license, including an X. If you thought these gender non-binary people were just a few eccentrics from the Jerry Springer show, you're very wrong. Social media is filled with them, and most disturbing of all, many of them are kids on TikTok who are hopelessly confused because speaking the truth these days is considered to be hate speech and a violation of the terms of service. And the liberal media industrial complex is working 24/7 to keep moving the Marxist agenda forward. In 2018, an animated series called Drag Tots was launched, featuring voices from RuPaul and several other contestants from his drag queen competition show Drag Race, who all play baby drag queens. Entertainment Weekly called the show adorable, and almost a decade ago now, in 2013, liberals celebrated the first transgender superhero named Shizao, which aired in Canadian and Australian television markets. The cartoon was geared towards children ages 2 through 11, and the storyline revolves around a boy who inherited a magic ring from his dead aunt that, when activated using the words, "You go girl," turns him into a transgender superhero. In an episode of Disney's Star vs. the Forces of Evil, a boy plays a princess. The Huffington Post praised the cartoon, saying that Disney is sending a beautiful message to the children. After Florida passed the anti-grooming bill, preventing teachers from indoctrinating kids from kindergarten through 3rd grade with transgender and LGBT and sexual propaganda, Disney announced a new division within the company that's dedicated to creating more of it for their animated series and movies. My book, Hollywood Propaganda, traces the history of this and how people were afraid to say anything when it started just a few years ago, which is why today we're past the point of no return. Makeup giant Maybelline hired a man to be the face of a mascara ad campaign in 2017. They chose a male beauty blogger named Manny Gutierrez, who has over 4 million Instagram followers that enjoy his selfies showing his bearded face adorned with lipstick and eyeshadow. The decision was celebrated, of course, by the leftist media, with Glamour magazine praising the idea, saying, "Now this is exactly how we should be ringing in 2017. The previous year, CoverGirl hired their first male model, a YouTuber named James Charles, who posts videos of himself doing makeup tutorials and painting himself up as a woman, even though he doesn't identify as transgender. Yes, they now have a male CoverGirl. Fellow makeup giant L'Oreal followed suit and hired a male YouTuber as a spokesmodel for their brand as well. YouTube as a company, as you know, promotes and glorifies transgender YouTubers like Gigi Gorgeous and other gender-bending male makeup artists like James Charles and Jeffree Star, who identify as men but wear women's makeup and clothes, which is fueling this phenomenon. They have created an extremely confusing environment for the children who, as you know, are so impressionable that they can be convinced that a fat bearded man in a red suit flies around the country every Christmas to bring them presents. And today, with so many of them being raised by social media personalities instead of their parents, they have no idea what kinds of behaviors are conducive or detrimental to a happy, fulfilling life, or what normal even is anymore. And as Adam Carolla once joked, or rather predicted a decade ago in his book titled "In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks," in the future, he said, kids will get bullied for not being gay, and he was right. At this point, straight people are seen as homophobic for not at least being bisexual. What we're seeing is biblical, and if you like my serious monologues like this, then you should definitely be reading my books, because there's only so much I can say out loud these days. But thankfully, banning books is still somewhat frowned upon, so order Liberalism Find a Cure, which isn't just an awesome t-shirt that I sell at markdice.com, but also a very serious book I wrote that details what's going on. So order it in paperback from Amazon.com or download the ebook from Kindle, iBooks, Nook, or Google Play. And of course, there's a link to the Amazon listing in the description below, so click it and head on over there and check it out.